Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10 short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. Today is Wednesday, September 4th, and we found out yesterday that Cam Heyward would be a one-helmet player. Cam signed an extension. Congratulations to him. Makes a lot of sense for the Steelers. Going to get into all of that. Actually wrote a column on that while I was on my way to Pitt volleyball last night. Well, not while I was on my way. Once I got there, the news broke while I was on my way and kind of reacted to that. We'll get into some thoughts with Pitt volleyball and some of the stuff that I saw there, as well as the Pirates. They won again in Chicago. And I wrote a column yesterday I want to get into. This was during the day, comparing them to the Kansas City Royals and some things that I think the Pirates can learn from the Royals, quite honestly. But first, the Cam Heyward extension and what it does for the Steelers. That's going to be my lead topic. It saved $9 million against this year's cap, which I think is important. It's a new $45 million deal. You've probably seen a lot of this year's salary converted into a signing bonus, $16 million. Honestly, it's what should have happened all along. I understand negotiating sometimes. You know, I consider, or I likened it in my head to the Brian Reynolds situation, where one side's starting way over here, the other one's way over here, and they meet somewhere around there. And that's kind of what we saw here. You know, Cam wasn't going to get $25 million, and the Steelers shouldn't have allowed Cam to play anywhere else. He should remain a Steeler, as he will. And I think this is a very important year for him. Going back and looking at some numbers, it is crazy. 2-year stretch where Cam Heyward had 20 and a half sacks, 21-22. There's some recency where you look at what he did last year, only played 11 games, 25 tackles, 2 sacks. You say, oh man, he's, doesn't have it anymore. Well, he was pretty darn hurt. I also understand the idea that you're not going to throw a bunch of money at a guy that is coming off injuries, that is Cam's age. But does this make sense? In my opinion, yes, it does. You have 3 years basically covered by this contract, and I know it's kind of shifted around a little bit. But if you take $45 million, divide it by 3, elementary math, $15 million a year, is Cam Heyward, relatively speaking, worth that much for the Steelers and their defense? Yes, he is. To me, that's an expense. If you would have told me at the beginning of this thing, you have to pay Cam Heyward $15 million a year for the next 3 years, I would have signed up for it. I'm not paying 25, but 15, I think, is a reasonable price. And so I like that. The point of my column, frankly, was that it's time to move on to other things. Cam Heyward, nobody knows about the Steelers' playoff drought more than Cam Heyward. Nobody knows the lack of acceptance or how that's taken inside that locker room more than Cam Heyward. So now the focus needs to turn on how to make it stop, right? Although there is one bit of business that I think this could enable them they were planning for this before. It's not like this move is what triggered it, but Pat Freiermuth has to get done, right? Has to get done. It's the lowest paid starting tight end in the league. It's like the top third of backups make more than Pat Freiermuth. And this actually makes a lot of sense for the Steelers to get this done now. If you think about it, what is going to happen with his value in Arthur Smith's offense, theoretically, especially with Brandon Ayuk not coming here and him effectively being the second wide receiver? You got to get this done now. And I think they want to. Obviously, the policy of not negotiating in season, that's going to work against them. But it makes all the sense in the world. You want Pat here. I think it makes a lot of sense. You got to get that price now before it skyrockets. So I expect that to happen. Some concerns. Mike Tomlin talked yesterday and spoke on a few of those things. And I go into the Falcons game a little worried about some things. I don't know about you all, but the wide receiver situation was something that came up with Tomlin yesterday at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex, and for valid reason. Tomlin even admitted in Latrobe to sort of barging into the wide receivers meetings and talking or expressing his concern with the position. And I don't think anybody can blame him. Still don't totally understand. Diontae Johnson gone away, replaced with not much, right? And I mean, that's not small production. I didn't catch these numbers until I saw it in Jerry's story, but 83 catches, 921 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's what he averaged over the past 4 years. The Steelers simply haven't replaced that. I like some of what Van Jefferson has done. I've liked some of what Scotty Miller has done. I'd feel a heck of a lot better if those guys were 3s or 4s and not 2s. You're counting on guys to basically have a career year. So we'll see. Tomlin's quote from his presser yesterday: the consistency in which those guys performed in Latrobe and through team development has made me more comfortable. specifically talking about Miller, Jefferson. Can't say enough about the consistency which they perform their floor, if you will. They behave like veteran players. Well, they're going to have to behave like elite or at least serviceable number 2 wide receivers. We'll see if that happens. Have one more Steelers topic I want to get to before moving on to some Pitt volleyball and Pirates. But of course, our usual break from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Enjoy.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
And welcome back to First 10, about 4 more minutes in today's episode. The other thing that concerns me, it's not a big one, is the offensive line. What is a big one? I guess I should say. But they're going into this game looking to be more physical, looking to establish the running game, looking to give Russell Wilson time to throw downfield with a whole heap of question marks along the offensive line. Check out Paul Zeiss's column on this. He lays it out well. Isaac Seumalo is currently hurt, and the Steelers got some good injury news with him. It's week to week. He's going to avoid IR. Should be back this month. That's great. But into his place steps Spencer Anderson. We've talked about that. 2 snaps last year. Zach Frazier is going to be making his debut. James Daniels is basically the only constant on the right side. I guess you could say Dan Moore Jr. is, but they've tried every which way to replace him. Broderick Jones has been less on the right side than he is on the left. Dan Moore has said he cannot play the right. Troy Fautanu has been limited in practice. So, I mean, how much are you going to play a rookie if he's limited in practice? Yeah. Between that and the wide receivers, you'd certainly like to feel a little bit better going into Atlanta. But, hey, it's coming one way or another, and the Steelers are going to have to figure it out. So, all right, shifting gears a little bit, Pitt volleyball. After I finish recording this, I can't wait to tear into a column and go through some of my notes and quotes and stuff from last night. But just so fun. Such a breath of fresh air being at Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. The Panthers absolutely crushed the University of Buffalo, by the way, 3-0. Pitt won by 12, 15, and 10 points. They just cruised as I sort of expected. Just wanted to experience the atmosphere. I'd never seen it before. It was obviously a ways away with Pirates stuff. And had never seen a match live at the field house and just absolutely loved it. One of the things I'm going to be writing about for my column, it's kind of interesting how much they talk about winning a national championship and not being scared by this goal, being very obvious about it. Some of the players talk to me about speaking it into existence and how do we know it's going to happen if we don't talk about it. So it's very much a regular part of their team culture, not so much like a superstition or anything, but just, a daily part of what they, and it's trying to walk parallel paths too. And I'm going to try to outline this well, but they really embrace like being uncomfortable. I think they said, being comfortable, leaning into discomfort and being comfortable, being uncomfortable. There's a lot of like quippy sayings that I have to go through that one of them sounds like coach speak. 2 of them, or a whole bunch of them, the way they did it's just interesting the way they sort of calibrate their brains around winning a national championship, which obviously I think we can probably all agree the Panthers have a very good chance of doing that. I like their team because there's so much coming back, and that's so rare in college sports, right? Especially, they're returning 80%, quickie math, something like that, maybe even above that. Honestly, there are seniors, transfer, extra year due to COVID, 5-6 players that have been around there for a long time, and another influx of talent, obviously. But it's this, great amalgamation of experience, of young talent, and whatever that has contributed to Pitt being among the most dominant teams in the country, and somebody that I really look forward to following this season. We'll talk about quite a bit more. Tori Stafford was worth the watch by herself. Absolutely ridiculous. So just flat out dominant. But if you go into her story, and Abby Schnabel wrote about this, had a benign tumor in her tibia, causing a pathologic fracture, had surgery in February. There was a lot of big words to say that she had some major stuff going on, and you'd never know it by watching her play. But the whole team, there's so much talent there. They play together. They're fun to watch. They're fun to cover. It's a fun atmosphere. Can't recommend it enough. check out my column when it goes live. Pirates won again for transition to my last topic. But Paul Skenes, impressive. I don't know if you saw that. 19 changeups, 11 swings, 10 whiffs. Far be it from me to question what Paul Skenes does with his pitch mix. I think he's doing just fine with my advice. But the changeups are good. I've seen it before. That was one of my biggest impressions seeing Paul for the first time, that like this will play. This is good enough to use in a game. No, he doesn't always have to get there. Last night was one of the ones where I think he said his quote was he had to reach into his bag of tricks. But yes, do that more. I like that. Which I know is an overly simplistic point, and that's the point. But like, it's just he continues to evolve. Every single start showcases something else. Was not terribly efficient through the first three. I'm thinking, like, is this going to be a 3-inning start for him? And winds up getting through, was able to get through the final 6 outs pretty quickly. But all in all, good start from Paul. Got the offense going enough. Jared Triolo with the big homer. By the way, Triolo hitting .245 with 3 homers, a double, and 11 ribs since August 14th. And that would be an interesting thing, though. Obviously, that sample is very, very small. But what if that would continue? That would offer some interesting food for thought, given the position he plays and what the Pirates might do in the offseason. But to this point, Triolo's OPS is around 600. I'm not going to guarantee him anything, but I do want to see more, and he'll have the opportunity to play a lot more. Well, I didn't have any time to get to the Royals thing. Maybe I'll get into it more tomorrow, but the gist of it, to refer you to our website, is basically some stuff that the Kansas City Royals did this past offseason, spent some money, spent it in a specific way, the type of baseball they're playing. Clean. The offense is good enough. Very good with pitching. Outs above average, the Royals are number 1 in baseball. Now, it hasn't gone well lately. They've lost 7 in a row. Most baseball teams are going to encounter something like that. They still have the last American League wildcard spot. But the point was that the Pirates can learn a thing or two from this situation. They're not far away from the Pirates. I mean, they're a smaller market than the Pirates, but they spent money, spent a lot of money. And if you remember, 106 losses last year from this team. They were terrible. And they've spun out of it in a positive direction in a very quick way. So check that out. I'm over time. I can't get into it too much. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of these videos and much more from our Post-Gazette reporters and columnists. Back here tomorrow. Thanks for checking out First 10, everybody.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.